What's up, guys? Dr. Seth back to help you solve your powerlifter problems. Topic came up in the Elite FTS Table Talk Crew Discord channel, and I figured I would run with it because I am a self proclaimed expert on being a fat guy. So, how do we manage being a heavyweight or super heavyweight powerlifter better? And in my powerlifting career, I have gone up and down the weight classes a couple times. I've been as heavy as 340 pounds on the platform, and right now, this training cycle, I'm competing as a 308 at this meet, but I have walked around between 315 and 320 most of this meet prep. And the big thing is like, why would you want to be heavier? Because there are a lot of people right now who are right in saying that you don't need to be a fat guy to be good at powerlifting. But speaking from experience, like I totaled 2028 at 242, so I was a decent powerlifter when I had abs, but being heavier, everything just feels better under the bar when you do it well. I feel so much stronger, I feel so much more stable, and this should end up far exceeding the coefficient score I had as a 242. So I could argue that for myself at least, I'm a better powerlifter when I am fatter. Now, that is not to say that there are not drawbacks, because the heavier you are, the more life is going to suck in general. And a lot of what I'm going to talk about is going to be mitigating how shitty life is and how terrible you feel on a daily basis. And the number one thing with that is, if you're going to be a fat powerlifter, don't be a fat and out of shape powerlifter. Do your damn conditioning work. And for myself, going up in weight this recent prep, that was one of the hardest things that I dealt with, because this was one of the faster rates of weight gain that I've had. And conditioning went away very, very, very quickly once I hit that 290 mark. And I was at the point where like I could hardly walk the dogs. I could hardly make it around the grocery store just because my calves would blow up so much, my low back would blow up so much, and it went from like I got a low back pump to holy fuck, I'm gonna die from this low back pump. And I remember like walking around the grocery store and like the what allowed me to finish grocery shopping was like I'd see another fat guy that was definitely in worse shape than me, and I'm like, okay, he is doing it. I can make it through this. I can prevail, because holy shit, those were back pumps from hell. And the solution to that for me was adding in conditioning work that I could actually do and actually progress. Now, once I got to that point where I was totally blown out from calf and back pumps doing any walking, that meant sled work was out of the cards for me. So, what I replaced it with was stationary bike, because I could sit on a stationary bike, I could pedal slower when things blew up, and I could just make myself last 20 minutes. Now, once I could last 20 minutes on that thing, I would just gradually ramp up the intensity each time I was going. And I was going to the gym 2 to 3 times a week to get on the bike, and I would just try to do a little more and a little bit better every single time. And I was monitoring heart rate through this. And one thing that I noticed is when I was at my worst, I couldn't even sustain 110 beat per minute heart rate before my calves and quads would just blow up on the thing. So my goal was to get to the point where I could sustain 140 beats per minute for the entire 20-minute duration and not feel like I was going to die. And that actually got pretty comfortable pretty quickly. And once I was able to sustain that on the spin bike, my next step was then to slowly add in some stair mill. So what I did is I got in the stair mill, put her on level 3, so barely a snail's pace, and I just wanted to go until it got pretty uncomfortable. Day 1, that was only 3 minutes. And it really was like 2 minutes and 20 seconds. I was like, fuck it, I gotta make 3 minutes or else I'm gonna never get better. So I made it to 3 minutes on day 1. Then I painfully waddled over to the stationary bike, got on it, finished 17 more minutes. And I would continue on like that, trying to push up stair mill time, and then replacing as stair mill time went off, I do a little bit less spin bike time, so I'd stay with that 20-minute total cap. And it took me probably 4 or 5 weeks to get to the point where I could stay on the stair mill for 20 minutes and not feel like I was going to die. And once I got to that point where I could get on the stair mill for 20 minutes, life was so much freaking better. Like I could actually walk on the grocery store. I could walk the dogs. I could start going for hikes with Miana again on the weekends, and life didn't totally suck. So that is point number one, is if you're going to be a fat powerlifter, don't be a fat and out of shape powerlifter. Get some conditioning work in, because not only did life suck when I was at that point where the back pumps were killing me, training sucked too, because I was getting gassed so easily. I could hardly deadlift. I could hardly make it down to the deadlift bar without my back pumping up. So training sucked, and like I wasn't going to get better, and I wasn't going to have the meat prep I needed unless I did conditioning work to allow myself to actually train. The second benefit of bringing in conditioning work is you'll see a lot of super heavyweight powerlifters on meet day, they get gassed out and they can't pull a second deadlift to save their life. They can't pull a third deadlift to save their life. I actually got a story on that that'll get to in point number 3. But make sure that you are in shape if you're going to be heavier, because we want being heavier to be to our advantage, not to our disadvantage, because we're so out of shape that we can't actually make it through a powerlifting meet. Which is pretty sad to say, because a powerlifting meet is only 9 lifts, and if you're too out of shape for that, that's really bad. So don't be that guy that is in that bad of shape, please. Now, point number 2 that we need to do to better manage things as a heavier lifter is, if you do not have a CPAP and you are a powerlifter, go get one now. There is no excuse. Unless maybe you're like, 165. Then you have some excuse, but I've known lots of 181s that got sleep studies and need a CPAP. I've known lots of 198s that need a CPAP. I've known lots of 220s that need a CPAP. And above 220, everyone needs a CPAP. And yes, that is a generalization. Yes, I don't know your sleep study results, but I really do not care, because if you are a powerlifter and you do not have a CPAP and you are above 220 pounds, my baseline assumption is that you do not care about powerlifting, you are a dork, and you don't want to get better. So, do not be a dork that does not want to get better at powerlifting. So get yourself a damn CPAP, because holy guacamole, that thing opens up a entire new world of I don't feel terrible. Now, before I had a CPAP, I got one when I was 19 years old. And my initial reaction was, holy shit, this thing is better than steroids, because when you are not able to sleep because of your body weight, when you're able to sleep again, it is just like magic. There is no word other than just magical to describe the feeling of actually getting a good night's sleep when you've been missing out on one for so long. So if you're heavier, get yourself a CPAP. The second thing that I've noticed going up in weight, aside from the need of forced air induction to keep my throat open, is that limbs fall asleep easier, especially my arms. And I think that is mostly just because there's less space, the bigger I am, for nerves to do their job. And if I'm not careful with sleep position, my arms will go numb and I will wake up multiple times through the night because my arms are numb. So the simple thing that I've done to mitigate that is I have a couple extra pillows that I use to prop out my arms. My favorite position is to set myself up, arm on my back, arms up like this, like I'm taking out a bench. Things feel awesome and able to sleep through the night. The problem with that is Miana doesn't love that because I take up more room and it gets in the way of her sleep. So it's kind of is this, if I have, at the end of meet prep when things are getting heavy and I need to sleep better, I'll be like, hey, please, can I prop my arms up? And she'll let me. So she is very kind for that. But moral of the story is, if you are having trouble with limbs falling asleep, try to manage sleep position so that they don't, so that you can't sleep through the night. And, for most people, like, if someone says, oh, I slept bad and my neck got jacked up, blah, 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 like, I am a fan of saying there is no bad sleep position in terms of what it's going to do to your structure. But when we are having something that is directly influenced by position, like a arm going numb, then we can look to modify position so that our arm does not go numb. Now, third thing that we need to think about if we are going to be a heavier weight powerlifter is, are we eating like a piece of shit so that we can just eat like a piece of shit? Or are we eating to fuel our performance? Because so many guys just want to use being a bigger powerlifter as an excuse to eat 17 pizzas a week. And I have been that guy. It is fun. But that is not the best thing you can do if you care about your training and you care about your total. Because the problem with eating like shit is not only will digestion be a mess, but the more bloated you are, the more you're going to be capped in back pump and not be able to pull your third deadlift on meet day. And this training cycle, yes, I have had my fair share of ice cream. I have had my fair share of pizza. But I've also had a lot more ground bison and rice because I care about fueling my training and I don't want to be a giant pumped up mess that can't bend down to grab the deadlift bar. So, do not eat like a piece of shit. Do not use it as an excuse to eat like a piece of shit. If you care about training, you care about your total, eat to fuel your training, eat to fuel your total. And in the past, I used to be one of the people that thought, oh, the more bloated I am, the better I'm going to be. And I know when I'm leaner, carrying a little bit extra bloat, trying to bloat up, it does have some benefit to performance on a heavier session. But the heavier I am, the more, when I'm already bloated, carrying excess bloat just puts me further into that territory of I'm going to die of a back pump. And I think that the biggest I ever screwed this up on was last summer at Florida State Championships, competing in sleeves. I was competing at 275. My plan was just to be a light 275 because I was walking around at 260. I didn't want to cut. And then about a week out from the meet, I got the bright idea of, hey, if I'm going to be 275, let's fill out this weight class. And I upped salt, I upped fluids, I upped ramen intake significantly, and I went from 260, weighed in at 275.4, so just under the 125 kilo threshold. I was very proud of myself for nailing that on the dot. And meet day, first off, walking to the Tampa Bay Convention Center, I almost died because I was so bloated. Second off, through squats, my back was locking up. Giant back pump, and it was not fun. On squats, I did perform very well, but the back pump was there, and it probably did limit me just a little bit. On bench, my back was cramping like a motherfucker, and bench did show very well, but afterwards I was right locked up. On deadlifts, that back was so locked up and so pumped up and so bloated that I could hardly make it down to the deadlift bar. And although that I was the strongest I had been up to that point in training on deadlifts, I had one of the worst deadlift showings that I had in the past, 5-6 years, just because I couldn't get down to the bar because I was so friggin' bloated. So don't fall for that trap that thinking bloat is better. Don't eat like a piece of shit because it's fun. Eat to fuel your training if you are going to be a heavier guy. And the last point I want to talk about is on a similar topic. So many lifters are a heavier lifter just because it allows them to not need to care about their diet and they just stay heavy for their entire duration as a powerlifter. And I think that is a huge mistake, not only from, the quality of life side and not being able to do the things that I would like to do in my off season. Like I want to be able to go for more aggressive hikes. I want to be able to ride my BMX bike. I want to be able to, run around with the dogs. I want to be able to not have to worry about a back pump when I'm going grocery shopping. So one thing that I am a huge advocate for is not spending all of your time at the weight you're going to compete at if you are a heavier lifter. And I don't mean get heavier. What I mean is downsize. Because not only will life get better the lighter that you are, but when you do, or if you do decide to go up again, you will be able to put on better size and have a better body composition at that heavier weight, and you will then perform better for that body weight. And that is something that I have been able to do my pretty much entire powerlifting career. I've been over 300 pounds on 4 different occasions. So I've gone, up, down, I think at fourth up. So I'm over here. And each time that I have been over 300 pounds, because I've gone down, to a very lean place, I've been able to come back with a better relative body composition and things work better. It allows me to be heavier and have less of the downsides. It allows me to be heavier and have more upside. And that kind of does come back to the whole idea of you don't have to be a fat guy to be a good powerlifter. And I think that definitely is true. And I am being heavier for short-term benefit and total, but long-term, I want to be leaner at a heavier body weight, not only because it will allow me to downsize and feel better away from the meats that are important to me, but because it long term it will allow me to be in a better body composition to do better. And the side benefit, or not the side benefit, but the benefit in addition to that, when we do get lighter, what that's going to allow us to do is it's going to allow us to reset our insulin sensitivity. It's going to allow us to give our internal systems a bit of a break. It's going to allow us to give our joint structures a bit of a break because we're not having to lug around 300 plus pounds all damn day. So that is going to be one of the most important things we can do if we're going to be heavy, is that we need to not be heavy all of the friggin' time, because we are just putting more strain on ourselves than we need to. And obviously we're already putting strain on ourselves, so if we can make things a little bit safer with the benefit of being able to come back better the next time that we go up, it's a win-win-win in my books. So guys, that is my super heavyweight survival guide. So make sure that you're not just a fat guy, or you're not the out of shape fat guy. You can be a fat guy. Don't be the out of shape fat guy that cannot breathe and cannot pull a second deadlift because he is so gassed out. Make sure that your sleep is managed well. Get that friggin' CPAP. Make sure that we aren't eating just to be fat. We're eating to fuel our training. And make sure that we aren't going to stay big year round all the time, because there is going to be benefit both physically, psychologically, health-wise, for going down and then coming back up if we do choose to do so again. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you guys got something out of that. Thank you for sticking around too, because we're up to over 1,000 subscribers. And I am super stoked to see that, because growing a YouTube channel is a lot harder than growing an Instagram. So thank you guys. Appreciate the heck of ya. Thank you for sticking around. Have a great rest of your day.